seminars. First half will be given by Shri Hemant Raju. He is BE Civil from Siddhaganga Institute of Technology, and he has pursued MTech in Transportation Australia. And our President and Managing Trustee Shri Vasura sir, he is also a civil engineer. Both are from Siddhaganga Institute of Technology. He is a layout specialist in Bengaluru. He has developed Singapore layout. He has developed Sahakari Nagar layout. He has developed many more layouts, and he is well known in the Bengaluru as the layout specialist. Now I request our beloved Mr. Hemant Raju to give the motivation speech regarding the opportunities and avenues for abroad. Please make a note of it and take the maximum benefit of it. And also at the end of the session, you are free to ask any questions if you have any doubt. Now I request Mr. Hemant Raju to take over the dais.
Yeah, thank you, Manjunath, and thank you, Suraj, and all this management, and also to all the students and all. Good afternoon to everyone. I'm
ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ
again,
ಡಿಸ್ಟೆನ್ಸ್ ಇಟ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ ನೋಡಿ ಆನ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಆಫ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಆನ್ ಆಗಿದೆ
Thanks.
Check it, sir.
So can yes, yeah. Just my friend Manjunath asked me to come and say a few words about my experience and stuff. Just today, I just would like to share my experience, how I went there in the last 26 years. I've been living in Australia and New Zealand, and mostly in Australia last 24 years. So, like just to sharing my experience, I'm not any big lecturer or anybody else. Just a casual talk is most welcome. And after this, you can ask me anything, any questions if you have. I'm happy to answer. If not, I'll let you know. Last concern appropriate person if you need any extra additional information. One thing, yeah. Actually, I graduated from SIT in 1987 in civil engineering and worked here in private sectors, became a contractor. And in the meantime, I had a desire to go to overseas and work, study something in post-graduation or something, but due to my own difficult problems, issues. Yeah. Okay. A bit delayed. Anyway, like everyone else, you're all, most of them, I believe, you're all in final year students. Like so many things, running your mind, like what to do after graduation. Either should I need to work or pursue higher education or go to, any other things, like if you're in mind or doing your own business or anything like that. That's fine. Just, it might be helpful for you people, like, if somebody wants to keen on learning or going to overseas or pursuing a job or anything, might be useful. And especially like after graduation, like especially for the, like in Australia and New Zealand, they, not like any other countries, they do invite all these migration based on the skills, like trades, like a trade person like you, like trades like like turners, speakers, all the things in the skill migration. And secondly, even for the diploma holders can also apply for the migration. And also professional cadre like engineers, they do apply for the migration, especially for Australia and New Zealand. Unlike I don't know much about like other countries because I've been here the last 26 like, like if you, like especially you are on diploma holders, like you may think that I may not be eligible to go to overseas to study masters or something, um, but that's not true. That's a false. Like even you can also go to overseas, like Australia and New Zealand, after your diploma study for directly into a master's course, provided if you have at least 5 to 6 years of work experience in relative appropriate field. But if you are somebody is because I can say like a civil engineer, my background is if I've done a civil diploma, you could work in a design office like a structural office designer. If I want 5 to 6 years of work experience, still I can apply for a master's course in overseas like in Australia and New Zealand. They do consider your work experience as equal plus a diploma as equal to a bachelor's degree. You can go and apply like just a 2 years course generally, and after 2 years they'll be given a bridging visa. Further 2 more years you can work, and if you like the place, you can apply for a migration like a permanent basis, like a permanent, like you can stay over there, migration. That comes later. All the whole process may take about 4 to 6 years time. Okay, 2 years of studies, 2 years of bridging visa, then 4 years plus another. If you apply for a permanent migration, means it takes another 2 years. Something around 4 to 6 years, the whole process will take up that. Okay, and only thing is like in Australia, like you have to, whatever you do, you have to be perfect. Like, for example, I'll tell you my own experience. When I went there, my education qualification in New Zealand was not, say, not equivalent. I had to, again, I went and studied one more year for a bridging course. I studied 1 year and then produced all the documents and the projects which I did and made equivalent to the New Zealand qualifications. And then I did some local studies 1 year. Then I entered the job market only. So I didn't have enough information before I left India. I learned it. But today's environment, you don't have to because so much information is available through websites, Google, everything. So you can have all the information. But for example, like in civil engineering, and because I was, whenever I applied for the job at all, like they used to ask me, do you have a local experience? Do you have a local qualification? Okay? You can get a local qualification if you study 1 or 2 years, but getting experience is a bit hard. Somebody has to open the door for us, isn't it? So what I did when I went a few times, my CV was declined. I didn't get a job, but again, requested them I'll do for a 3 months, 4 months for work experience. They allowed me 3, 4 months. Then I was doing some other job. In the meantime, I started working on a part-time basis here. After 3 months, I got into the real mainstream, my workforce. So these things I should have done before I left, but I didn't have to at all. So you guys, like for example, if you are, most of them I believe are aeronautical computers background. So if you do at least 5 or 6 years of work here in any, like for example web design, okay, if you're master in that, or some programming master, or for Microsoft certificates, Microsoft Windows, networking, Cisco, any work, any place, like you study, you get the certificates and do the work experience, few years, and then when you apply, when you get there, higher studies, and there's chances of getting a jobs, it's much easier rather than doing some odd jobs and then again learning, all these things. You save a lot of time as it's okay. That's what I'd like to say about this. So whatever you do 100% correct. Be able to do on your own, like without anybody says. If somebody give a job, web design, you should be able to do it. So any programming language, you have to do on your own. Can't, that's fine, but their problem is that once they get into a job, they pay in hourly rates or things. From the day one, they expect you. If you invest on $500 then they will expect you at least $1,000 from you. They won't expect at least $1,000 from you, and then only he can pay you $500. I mean, it's all business oriented. Nobody will be there to help you all those things. They might help you 1 or 2 days, not like here. Here things are different. There will be always a room to get a help from somebody else. But there it's all very, very strict, time-bounded projects. So you have to be on hands-on skills. Please make sure you learn something, you should be able to do work on your own or something. And this is one thing. And other thing, if you want to apply for a migration, there are 3 ways of going to overseas if you're interested. The first one is as a student. As I spoke to you, said you can go on a master's or a bachelor's degree or a master's and get your case. After 4 or 5 years of experience, you can produce a thesis, what you read, project report, and get a qualification. Your qualification should be assessed by the Australian or maybe a New Zealand qualification authority. Generally, for technicals, diploma models, they call it as a technicians, technical leader, technical persons, technician they call it. Anyway, and assess your qualification with the relative body of Australia and New Zealand, and then you apply for a student visa, and then study 2 years or 1.5 years, whatever. And then if you, by the time you have 5-6 experience, it's easy to find a job. That's one way. The other option could be a permanent migration. Okay, permanent migration, what happens? Because of in Australia and New Zealand, because of a lack of skilled laborers or professionals, whatever you call, there is always every year they open up certain number of people to their country, right? They welcome that. Okay, it's not only from India, around the world. Okay, so that's actually on a point system. Say for example, 100 points for civil engineers. Okay, so if you have a degree, it should be around 60 points, and your age, another factor, between 25 to 30, that's maybe around another 20 points. And if you have experience of 5 years, another 20 points. So if you meet 100 points, you're eligible to apply for the permanent migration. Okay, generally it takes about up to 2 years, but more information you can find on the appropriate website. If you go to Immigration's Home Office, Australia or in New Zealand, you get all the information. And make sure study and understand everything. Okay, and that's a point system. What happens like if Australia needs more civil engineers, they will have less points 100. If they need a less electrical engineer, the points will be more 160, 150 because they don't want certain categories because they're already enough there. When there is a shortage, they will open up the migration. They give more less points for the people they are in need. Okay, so that point system keeps on varying from year to year. It may not be the same every year. This year will be one, next year depends upon the demand there. Okay, demand and supply. If there are more number of gadgets come out locally, there will be more points. It's difficult to enter. Okay, so that generally the maximum points between 25 and 30 years of age you get. So you're all youngsters, I believe you all finished before, but you turn 20. Okay, so it's best to work in that direction if you're keen on that, moving to overseas. Okay. The third option is moving to overseas is by work permit visa. Work permit, see, you all know that like people they move to Middle Eastern countries, they're all work permit visa for certain profession for a specified duration time, like 2 years, 3 years, and all. Similarly, if you work for a company like Infosys, Tata, Wipro, anyone, and they do take some contract jobs in banks, places in all over Sydney, and then send these Indian staff members who are working here over there for the next 2 years' time. So after 2 years' time, you are bound to come back. If you want to stay there, by the time you understand requirements and all, you can apply for the job somewhere else. It's very risky. I don't know the conditions between you and your employer and all those things. Bit tricky. It's not that easy. Again, you have to come back with penalties over stuff. I heard that things happen. Anyway, that's the third part. Okay. Some people they work 2-3 years when they come back to India. Okay. So student is one thing, and if you have enough funding, family support, financial support, this is the easiest. I mean, you can go as after 3-4 years, or you can go on there are some other professional courses out there. You can, and also if you have a less experience, 3-4 years, you have a diploma, you may have to take additional subjects before entering your master course. You have to study one more year, like a bridging course at home, additional few subjects, and then you can jump into any other professional courses that you have chosen. Okay, that's it. And another thing is, for students or the migration, they do need English IELTS. Probably everybody knows that IELTS used to be called those days. When I was when they asked me to offer, now they are asking IELTS band something 6, 8, I don't know. It's every year again it's keep changing. Depends on what sort of education courses of migration before you part. Okay. So more information you can always found on the Department of Immigrations, Home Affairs Australia, and you try to get all the information as much as possible on them, and also from New Zealand as well. And they definitely open for all these technicians, diploma holders, as well as engineers. Always with them. This keep changing every year depending on their requirements. Okay. And the skill set, as I said, for example, like when I went there, as I said, I didn't get job in the. Luckily, before I left India, I learned AutoCAD. Those days, we learned using a T-square drawing board. Those days, when later I went there, that was computers were new for me in '85, '86. So I did about 1 year course, 1 month course in CAD Center in '87, I believe. They get refreshed, and then I started my career as a draft person initially to start somewhere in opening. So a few months there, I moved to IMT, because once you go there, you have to show the ability, your skill set that you are capable of doing, you're efficient. That's always be there. Somebody has to give it, open the door first. Anyway, so that's why if you have 5 years time or 5 years time, in the meantime, do professionally and get thorough educated and shown experience will be helpful for you. Okay. That's the 3 ways you can go. Another thing, I'm not sure about the aeronautical. Aeronautical, I think, is a service-oriented industry there, or the service centers, machines replacing repairs for them. If somebody keen and want to know about in electrical, and electrical, like mainly networking, all those things, but computers is going programming, and aeronautical service-oriented industry, they're all manufacturing, no R&D at the moment. Maybe in the future, I'm not sure. Okay. These are things, okay, there are 3 ways to get in there, okay. And yeah, and if you need more information, don't hesitate to ask anybody. I will advise you guys, any seminars happens in Bangalore, anybody comes from overseas for educational higher study center, you do attend, ask as many as questions as you want. And just that's the only way you can get information, first-hand information, and the cost of living, education expenses, and like if you get a part-time job, how much you earn, all those things, and get as much information. Don't be shy, don't hesitate to ask any questions. Okay. And any questions, if you want to ask me, I'm happy to answer. Honestly, to tell you, before the China, I tried everything. A lot of mechanical industries were there. Yeah. So later, these days.